And kind of just jumping right in with your Colby results, you're a let's just pivot and find a way and make it work kind of person. I mean, you are an idea generating powerhouse is what we that's kind of the phrase we use for your natural advantage. So, whether it's just finding a space to be your work from home office or professionally, I imagine you're kind of the same. So tell us a little bit more about kind of what you do in your day job.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've had many careers, but traditionally most of them have revolved around sales and marketing. But primarily sales, right? And I think that kind of pivots to what you were mentioning of like this idea powerhouse, where if you can't get creative, not just like on the fly with your customers and build rapport and build relationships, but also get creative with packages or how you can help people, it's very hard to excel, not just in sales, but probably in most things at life, right? So I transitioned into sales pretty early on. I currently work for a company called Fisher Space Pen, which is actually the pen that goes to space with the astronauts since 1968, which is really cool. Family owned company here in Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas in Boulder City, with a really cool history and legacy. But right now, I'm the head of sales and marketing for that company. And to your point, there's a lot of ideas and pivoting that happens on a
Yeah, I
daily
mean
basis, which is
that
really cool.
is totally consistent with what I would think from your Colby result in that idea generating powerhouse and being the kind of person who pivots. It's also not it's pretty common in salespeople at many levels to have that strength. Not it's not required by any means. I mean, there are some sales roles where it's all about really knowing the details about the products you're selling. It's maybe, hey, we don't have tons of different clients. I have three clients and we just sell very detailed, like, huge systems, multi-million dollar systems we sell to a few or a couple of clients. Then maybe it's not as much about the kind of strength that you bring to the pivoting and coming up with ideas and, listening to what they're saying and coming up with something new and a special. But more than any other result, I think we find the result that you have in sales professionals. So, yeah, not uncommon. So, I know you also have interesting hobbies. We were talking just before we started recording about you are a game show contestant and gamer. So, what does that look like? And I'm kind of curious to hear how that might fit in with your cognitive strengths also.
It's really interesting doing the test like this, and even just the first statement you said about this like idea generator powerhouse. Because when it comes to, I'll start with kind of gaming and just like a few hobbies of mine. One is gaming, and I've always leaned into more role playing style games or chess strategy style games where keep coming up with creative ways to win instead of just doing the same thing over and over that works. Another thing that's interesting is I don't know if you know what a trading card game is, but there's trading card games out there where you actually get a set of functioning cards that all have different texts and words and interactions and resource curves and etc. And usually in those types of games, there's what's called a meta deck, which is like the top two or three best decks. And I've always had a passion of not playing those decks, but finding a way to beat them with a creative idea powerhouse that works better that maybe someone didn't think of that could potentially find a way to win. And then lastly, I was always the couch potato hero where when I'm watching like game shows like Survivor and stuff, or even just like with one of my friends that you guys work with, I was a pretty okay athlete. So there was times where I would watch these Survivor games or these baseball games, and I'd be like, "Man, I could do that. I used to do that." And at one point, my wife goes, "If you can do it, why don't you just go apply? Start applying to game shows." And I was like, "You know what? I will," and I did, and I ended up getting on a game show called The Floor on Fox with Rob Lowe, which is currently airing right now. Episode 8 just aired last night, and I'm doing pretty okay. So I went from couch potato hero to doing okay on a game show. I'm still
So
alive,
how
which
do
is
you
fun.
see,
So
I mean, I know you can't give anything away that hasn't aired, but just how do you see using your cognitive strength, that quick start, risk taking, idea generating powerhouse. How did you see using that in that game show? Or did you? Maybe the format didn't lend itself to that.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of people went into this with a different strategy, right? And at the core of it, and maybe this is where my ideas and my brain starts going, at the core of it, this is a game with 100 squares and 100 categories, and you're trying to duel people in the categories, right? And I see that as the game, but then I think of like the deeper layers of this. How can I extrapolate this game to where I can give myself the best advantages to win, not by doing anything unethical, but by getting creative?